But evolutionary technologies or innovation is more typical in what you commonly see. And that means you're taking a product and you're creating different solutions that solve problems that people are still experiencing with the current technology.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews.
Hello and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name is Rick Nusky. I am your host. If this is your first time, thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you here. And if you have been supporting the show for any length of time, thank you so very much for your support and your feedback. It's wonderful knowing that the show is making a difference for you. Now, on today, I'm with the wonderful Ron Richard. How are you, Ron?
I'm doing well.
Now, Ron, for everybody who is on the call with us, he's a certified medical consultant. He's the founder and owner of BLD Medical Consulting, and we're going to be talking about the importance of innovation and developing new products to improve outcomes in the medical field. And we're going to be talking about how to get your inventions to market and the global reach of medical innovation and job creation, and importantly, about his book, Someday is Today. Wow, that's a lot to get through, isn't it, Ron?
It's a mouthful.
Well, look, you and I were talking just briefly about the name of your business, and we're obviously going to take a lot deeper look into your business, but it's customary for us, Ron, to spend a moment or two learning a little bit about you. I'm wondering if we can do a little bit of that and find out where you live.
Yeah, I'm currently living outside of San Diego, California, and I live up in an area where there's 60 different wineries, somewhat like Napa, but a little bit drier and a little bit warmer here. But a bit about me is I've been in the healthcare industry since 1973. I started my career as a respiratory therapist and a paramedic, and I worked in a teaching hospital for about 8 years. And upon leaving the hospital, I got interested in getting into selling medical equipment. Mm-hmm. And that took me on a long journey all over the world. I've worked and lived in Europe, and actually I lived and worked in Sydney, Australia. So
there you go.
I've been fortunate enough to get experienced and exposed to a lot of different cultures and people over the last probably 30, 40 years.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I wonder if we can go back a second. Do you like wine?
Yes, I do. I very much, when I was working in Australia, in fact, that's where I really got kind of an education about different kinds of wine.
Oh, yes.
As you know, in Australia, outside of Sydney, there's some really fantastic vineyards.
Well, you'd be familiar with McLaren Vale. That's where I live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big area where they make some fantastic reds and whites.
Oh yeah, absolutely, that's for sure and certain. Now you have a very colourful life, and it's one that's been well lived. And I loved finding out some more about you, because I like to spend some time, learning as much as I can, or at least as much as the internet will allow me to learn. And I love the fact you're involved with a band called the Bud Rose. I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about that pastime.
Yeah, I've been touring and playing music with a number of different bands, but about 4 years ago, I had just left a band that we toured and done quite a bit of work, and I wanted to get involved with more of an organic sound and with a band that was doing mostly original. So, about a little over 4 years ago, I met Jason Farthing, who started the Bud Rose, mm-hmm. and his stepdaughter, Macarena, was the lead singer. So definitely stripped down. We were a three-piece band, and he made all of his own instruments from cigar boxes.
Yeah, I noticed.
And gasoline cans. And the band really focused a lot of attention and energy on writing songs about bootleggers and about the time in our history where alcohol had been prohibition and all that type of stuff. So, mm-hmm. A lot of the songs focus on whiskey and Whiskey Runners and Bootleggers. And I contributed and helped write a few songs for our last record, which we just put out, called Chicken Fight. And anyway, when COVID hit, all of our shows were canceled, like a lot of bands. And unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I turned my attention and the extra time I had to write my current book. But yeah, if you can check out The Bud Rose. And a Bud Row is a slang term for someone that's your buddy or your friend from down south.
Got it.
In Louisiana or Mississippi, that's a common term. When somebody says that's my friend, they call them. They would say that's my Bud Row.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you very much for sharing. I love the sound. It's raw. It's real, and it just gets to you as soon as you start listening. You're tapping your feet and you're getting into it. So it's a real credit to you. I love listening to it. How long did it take you to learn the harmonicas? And which one is your favorite, harmonica or flute?
Well, harmonica is probably my first instrument. I started playing it when I was in junior high school.
You're really good at it.
Played with a lot of blues bands and grew up listening to Bob Dylan and John Mayall and bands from England, but also the U.S., and just really got tuned into particularly liking Mississippi and Chicago style blues. And then I picked up the flute and I play saxophone as well. And I also play percussion and then do lead and backup vocals.
The man of many talents, that's for sure. Yeah. Given that things have changed in our world and there's restrictions everywhere, so it seems at the moment. You obviously got a lot of time to, I guess, reflect. You've obviously written a book. Do you have time for movies? Do you like that sort of thing?
For what's that again?
For movies? Do you enjoy movies?
Oh yeah. I love movies. My wife and I are avid movie watchers, and we tend to kind of gravitate towards things that are on Netflix and in prime time or prime here, mostly series. Shows that have been produced by Amazon or by Netflix.
Yeah, they're good, aren't they?
Yeah.
You and I could only wish that we had shares in Netflix, I think.
Yeah, I unfortunately sold mine too soon, but we invested in Netflix a few years ago, and I wished I would have kept at least part of the stock.
Oh wow! Hey, are you a pet lover? Do you have pets in your life or not?
We have two dogs, a golden doodle and a Shih Tzu. So yeah, we've always had dogs around, and we really love having our dogs with us.
Yeah, our furry friends certainly make a difference in our world. Now, you've talked a little bit about your life. I'm wondering if we can go way back and unravel the story from when you were a child. And can you remember one where you were living when you were growing up that gave you the most fond memories? And what was one of those memories?
Well, my dad was in the Air Force, so we moved around a lot. I lived in 18 different places growing up. So I'd go back to, I remember we were living in California. My dad got transferred to Fort Worth, Texas to a military base. And I think I was at the time 9 years old, and I had never had any inkling about music. And someone at my school, a parent, approached my mom and said, would your son like to try out for the Texas Boys Choir? Mm-hmm. My mom said, well, I don't know. He sings at church. Maybe, that might work out. And I, not even knowing anything about the Texas Boys Choir, I went ahead and went to a rehearsal or a tryout. And I got selected to sing in the choir, which then after, we moved away, and I look back on that. That was really how I got started, and how I really fell in love with music is I learned how to dance, I learned how to sing, and we did Broadway musicals. So it was a great experience for me, and I always look back on that as kind of the starting point for me getting into music.
I wonder, a lot of times when we're growing up, we don't necessarily have a problem with confidence, but do you think that experience helped build yours?
Oh, most definitely, yeah. Because I grew up, after having moved around as much as we did, we could be in a city for maybe 6 months, and then my dad would get transferred. So I grew up kind of introverted and a bit shy.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I love to hear this sort of thing, because people get a lot of value out of, knowing how life's experiences can positively affect change. Now, you talked about your father, and I wonder early on, did he motivate you? And beyond him, were there any other people in your life that you looked up to?
Yeah, well, in the preface of the book, I actually dedicated this book to my dad. Mm-hmm. He was an inventor and an electrical engineer. And I remember coming home from school one day, and my dad was in the kitchen, and he was literally building his own stereo equipment with circuit boards and everything. And he loved music as well. Yeah, and had a great vinyl record collection, and I got exposed through him to listening to everything from Dixieland jazz to blues to country. And so I had a lot of respect and looked up to my dad. But his father also was a man that he moved. My father moved to the United States when he was 5 with his dad from Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather was a shrewd guy. He was a good investor when he moved over to the United States. He ran a dairy farm for a company based out of Chicago and ended up investing and buying a lot of real estate in the town that he lived. And we used to have a lot of great fun together. And he was the first person I ever took a trip outside the United States with, and he took me to Switzerland, and we had a great time together.
That's excellent. We need those sort of people in our lives. I think to myself, you've obviously got an inventive mind because of the exposures you've had. And I'd love to talk about that in terms of how you go about your day thinking about those things. But from a personal perspective, what's a day look like for you typically?
Usually, I get up and have a quick breakfast, and then I'm on calls like you, just with a whole variety of different types of people, everything from CEOs to clinicians, doctors. Today I've had a wide variety of different people that I've talked to, in addition to a couple of guitar players that I'm working with here in town on some different music. But yeah, I typically have a pretty busy schedule, and I still work full time, even though I just turned 68. So I'm hoping to continue to work as long as I can, God willing.
Yeah, absolutely. Spring chicken, they say. Now, you talked about, all of these things that are happening, and I know full well that your health is important to you. How important, for everybody who's listening, Ron, how important is it to have relaxation time away from your business?
Oh, gosh, it's super important. My background, as I kind of told you, has been in the area of sleep medicine. Mm-hmm. And I worked for ResMed, which was founded and based out of Sydney. And they were a primary driver and inventor of a lot of sleep devices. And I used to own and operate sleep labs. And I can tell you the people that would come in that had terrible time sleeping, like with insomnia, were people that were typically very stressed out. And it had a severe impact, I could tell, on their ability to go to sleep or to stay asleep, and they were insomniacs. So being able to relax, it's hard for people to kind of shut down their frontal cortex and just kind of take a deep breath. But that's what you have to do, and that's what music kind of does for me. It helps me kind of detach myself from the medical industry, which is a very intense business to be in. But music is a big help. So I always tell patients or tell people, if they can get a hobby like golf or go bike riding or something that you have to focus on and pay attention, that'll help you relax, in addition to maybe getting good habits. For sleeping is turn off your phone. Don't put a phone by your bed. Don't watch TV really late at night or play computer games, but try to unwind and maybe read a book or just do some yoga or just some meditation before you go.
I think we're all guilty of that in a way, aren't we?
Yeah.
To some level.
We are, and before you know it, you're just rushing ahead to get a bunch of things done that really don't, at the end of the day, matter that much.
And I think there's a lot of people on this call that are stressed and are overwhelmed. I've spoken to hundreds of people, and I've learned so much. And if it's not through the guests, it's through vicariously the people that they work with, that they do these things, and they don't really stop to think about the impact that technology is actually having on them. But so thank you very much for sharing. Now, Ron, I know that you're a certified medical consultant, but I wonder, what does it take to get to that position? What do you have to do to become a certified person?
It's a combination of years of experience and the degrees that you have. Essentially, it's a combination of number of hours you've worked specifically in different fields, and you have to have a varied background. You can't just be all business.
Yep.
You can't just be, just one lane. It's multiple different lanes in order to get a certification as a medical consultant. And then, then from there, it's building a reputation and, client list and referrals and all those types of things.
Now, you have a varied background from marketing, sales, digital web design, and and so on and so forth. Has that's all been a positive contributor to your success, do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. My career, maybe not unlike a lot of other people, you get started in one thing and you think, well, maybe you're going to do that for the rest of your life. But, fortunately for me, everything I've done in the past has led to what I'm now doing in the future. And I kind of look at them as stepping stones or bridges. Mm-hmm. And they've been, fortunately for me, linked up to, my past is linked up to things that I'm doing now currently. Like I never envisioned back in the 1980s that I'd ever have any involvement in telemedicine or telehealth. And I was a CEO of a company that we just completely focused all of our energy and attention on telemedicine and connecting doctors remotely with patients that were in drug rehab facilities. So it was a unique use case, but that lent itself to me in the future taking on some work with Qualcomm and, expanding my experiences in the telemedicine, telehealth field.
And that's, is it now all sleep and respiratory related work that you're doing?
Yeah. Right now I'm involved with a company in San Diego, and we're getting ready to launch a new high flow therapy device that specifically can help and treat COVID patients that are suffering from upper respiratory conditions.
Yeah, there's a bit of that going around, isn't there?
Yeah, it's very exciting. And, you'd mentioned something a bit ago about anxiety and stress. What have you found in terms of talking to people and how COVID has impacted their anxiety or stress levels?
Oh, look, there's two. I think there's two schools of thought. There's the people that are anxious about it. Then there's the, I guess, people who don't necessarily know if it's true or not. And I think in both camps, the feedback that I'm getting, the impression I'm getting is that the anxiety's there regardless of their mindset around it. So that's basically the gist of the feedback that I'm getting. But people are managing it. It's almost become a new kind of normal, hasn't it?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. That's unfortunately, that's true in a lot of parts of the world.
Now, Ron, I'd love to talk about your award. You were awarded the Home Care Person of the Year in 2004. Tell us about that.
Oh gosh, that was quite an honor because I was recognized by the peers in my field and by the industry for being a strong advocate for patients, meaning that not being patient, I'm not very patient, but for patients, people that are suffering from a whole host of different conditions and diseases. And I, for years, would go to Washington, D.C. and present to insurance companies and reimbursement agencies the need for better coverage and reimbursement for people who had sleep disorders or respiratory diseases. And I was fortunate enough to get broader coverages and more reimbursement to cover the expenses that patients experience from those types of disorders. So I was given that award, and it was a big honor.
Yeah, fantastic. So credit to you. I'd love to, if we could, we hear about this idea, this word innovation, and I hear it so often, but oftentimes people don't really have a grasp of what it means. I'm wondering, I guess, what your interpretation is of that word and how it applies in the medical field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, innovation to me, when I work with clients and I talk with them and they say, oh, I've got this innovative new product, that I think it's a home run. And I ask the follow-up question is, do you think it's evolutionary or revolutionary? And some people ask the question, well, what do you mean? What's evolutionary versus revolutionary? Well, to me, revolutionary innovation is something that just is drastically different than the core technologies that are available on the market. And oftentimes revolutionary technologies, it takes a long time for people to understand it or adopt it or to get the cost down. But evolutionary technologies or innovation is more typical in what you commonly see. And that means you're taking a product and you're creating different solutions that solve problems that people are still experiencing with the current technology. So the evolutionary innovation is easier to adopt. It's easier for people to grasp onto because they've already had an experience with the current technology. And when they see your product, they have that aha moment that they go, this is the next step in the evolution of XYZ therapy or the medical device that I was using, I was happy with. I'm glad you came up with this other feature or these other benefits.
We talked a little bit earlier about your daily routines, Ron, and given that you have a brilliant mind for innovation, how do ideas come to you? Do they come through other people? Do you wake up of a night time startled and needing to grab a pen and some paper? How does it happen for you?
That happens more with my songwriting. When I get an idea for a song, I grab a piece of paper or a notebook and start writing down lyrics. But for the products I've developed, I've got 17 patents, and I've developed and launched over 45 or 50 innovative products over my career, generating sales of almost $2 billion.
That's incredible.
Those products that I was the most successful in terms of launching and getting to market were born from firsthand experience of working with patients and clinicians. Mm-hmm. And looking again, going back to my explanation about innovating and coming up with products that solve problems.
Yeah.
And that's really the home run right there. And depending on how many problems you can solve or how bad the problems are, that's going to basically formulate into a successful product launch and obviously sales after the launch. But that's typically how I've been successful, and that's a big part of my book, actually, too. If you look at
fantastic. You talked about having relationships before, and it's not just one path that you've walked down to get to this point. So you must have a lot of relationships with designers and developers to bring these new products to market. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, well, in order to do the job or do the work that I do, I have to know like mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, and most lately I've gotten to become quite close friends with engineers who have rapid prototyping types of technologies. So, for instance, when I was building prototypes about 10 years ago or 15 years ago, it would take 3 or 4 days to make a part. And now I can talk to a rapid prototyping engineer and have a workable part done in about 3 hours.
It's amazing.
So, yeah, the technology for rapid prototyping and 3D modeling has just made huge advancements, which helps speed up product development and testing concepts and all those things that go into that.
Are you talking about additionally the 3D printing of primary prototypes?
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Not just the plastic parts, but you can get parts now that you can run off of a 3D printer that are just so they're almost exactly what you would use for a production line finished product. So it gives you a really great look and feel, and it gives you the capability of testing something almost as if it was going to be what you're going to go to market with. So you get that. I think you get some really great experience and knowledge from working with rapid prototyping tools now.
So with the, almost the compounding effect of your knowledge and experience, when you come up with a prototype and you're working with skilled professionals who have had a lot of experience as well, do you find that the rework or redesign part of all this process is being reduced because you're just getting better at it?
Yeah, definitely. I see there's a lot fewer mistakes that are made, less money that has to be spent than on developing multiple prototypes to get to your end point or end goal. And that's based on a combination of experience and also the advancement we talked about in 3D printers and modeling. It's just a combination of the years of experience that I've had in addition to all the new tools that are out there.
So I guess when you're ready to go to market, you obviously have a number of relationships there as well. Is that how that works, or do you go directly to companies, or?
Yeah, there's a couple different pathways. Most recently, with this new product I'm launching, I'm working with specialty stocking distributors that have strong relationships with hospitals and respiratory therapy departments.
Fantastic.
And so they know the doctors, they know the pulmonologists, they know the key decision makers in all those institutions, and that helps accelerate the adoption and makes your product launch a lot more successful if you have those kind of experienced people behind it.
I was going to say, it would be very hard to, put a widget, let's call it, in front of a medical practitioner and say, look, this does this. And the first thing they would obviously say is prove it. How long does that part take?
That is where, we talked a little bit about revolutionary versus evolutionary. It's much easier to get doctors to buy in on evolutionary products than revolutionary, because the first thing they're going to say, just like you said, Rick, is prove it. Yeah. Because the clinicians can't risk or take chances in their medical practice on something that's unproven or not thoroughly tested. So they're very conservative when it comes to adopting a new product.
I bet you they are. No, I wonder, we're, as a global society, if you want to call it that, we all have similar medical conditions, things we're trying to deal with. How wide-reaching is your work and your medical innovations?
Oh, well, in just respiratory and sleep alone, there's probably over, I'd say, close to 800 to 1 billion people. Yeah. globally that suffer from sleep and respiratory disorders.
That's a lot of people, isn't it? There's certainly no shortage of a market there, that's for sure and certain.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm wondering if we can switch gears a little bit and actually talk a little bit about your book, Some Days Today. You underscored it with a quote, if you have an idea, run with it and get started. I think that's a little bit of a telltale sign as to what's inside. Could you share a little bit more with us?
Sure. Well, the genesis of the book was I was invited to do a lecture at Stanford University in Palo Alto, and the audience was primarily doctors and clinicians. And the title of my talk was "The Mother of All Inventions," and it was related to a friend of mine who's a friend now, but I didn't know him at the time. He was the keyboard player for the Grateful Dead. And his mother had gotten ill, and he came up with an invention, and someone connected him to me, and I took his concept, which was just a rough drawn little thing on a piece of paper and a simple prototype to market. And anyway, from that lecture that I gave to these doctors, I had several of them call me up and say, I've got these great ideas, but I just can't seem to get them into the market. I can't get them commercialized. And I remember one doctor, actually that's the subtitle of my book, my ideas are stuck in my coffee cup. And I sit there and at my desk and I'm pondering over these things. And in the book, it goes through that my firm foundation of belief in creating new products is if you have firsthand experience with current technology, who's better than a doctor or a nurse or respiratory therapist to come up with the next best or the next better product in the evolution of what we're doing to improve patient care. So that was part of it, was the template is how to get through or navigate all the different steps and hurdles there are from what I call concept to commercialization. And the other part of it, there's something in the book that I talk about. If you see a need, plant a seed. And what that means is if you're a doctor, nurse, clinician, and you see a need that's not being met by current innovation or by current technology, by all means, step up and come up with the next generation or next best product. So plant that seed, which means that's your invention, that's your idea, nurture it, water it, get passionate about it. And before you know it, your idea, your concept could be commercialized and be used to help and treat millions of patients all over the world. So the book, again, it's like a game plan. It goes through how to raise capital, how to put together a team. Because a lot of things I've learned, over the years is doctors don't go to medical school to learn how to be a businessman.
No.
But a lot of them are good at innovating. They just need some help, on how to put the basic formula together to form a business or a company. And the other thing, my wife's a doctor, by the way. And,
okay.
She is always talking, and when we go to dinner, we talk to other physicians about how they'd like to have the ability to make passive income off their inventions or their ideas. Mm-hmm. And so that's another part of the book. It's like, just realize that if you get an invention, you get a product, whether you license it or you get royalties from it, or you start a whole full-blown company, that's going to provide you with additional income, a different revenue stream, passive or active income. But it also helps clinicians become more balanced. They're not just so focused on doing patient care, but they're now have, like we talked about, how do you reduce stress or anxiety? Believe it or not, a lot of doctors, that's the way after work they reduce anxiety and stress, is working on their inventions.
Yeah, it just gives them another pathway, and this book is most certainly a nice starting point for those who are wondering about this process. And that hopefully a couple of people on the line today are thinking about this, going, I need to get my hand on this book. And with that being said, where will they find this wonderful book of yours?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. You just go to Amazon. You can download it, digital version, or buy a hard copy, or you can get it off of Barnes & Noble.
Fantastic. And if people want to touch base with you or learn more about you yourself, Ron, where would they find you?
My email is ron@rfrichard.com, or my website is inventingstartstoday.com. You can contact me through that and schedule an appointment.
There's certainly lots of information when you get to inventingstartstoday.com, and as per custom, I will make sure that the links back to Ron and his website, as well as Amazon, are available below this post. No matter where you find this interview, you will find the links back to Ron. And with all that being said, Ron, thank you so very much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you, Rick. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.